I'm going to go into the different coverages in Madden in the tutorial mode and explain them really quickly and how they translate to the NFL. The first coverage is cover 1. There's a few different variations of cover 1. You have cover 1B, cover 1 plug, and cover 1 robber. Basically, that tells you how many players are going to be playing coverage versus blitzing. If it's cover 1 robber or cover 1 plug, you're going to be manned up with 5 defenders underneath, and there's going to be an extra zone defender that is coming down and playing in the middle hook zone. That's again, plug or robber. The other version of cover 1 is cover 1B, where that extra defender that would be playing zone is blitzing, creating a 5-man rush. The biggest thing that this changes is the leverage that the man defenders are playing. If it's cover 1 with a zone defender in the middle of the field, all of the man defenders are going to be playing outside leverage. If that extra defender is blitzing, all of those defenders should in theory be playing inside leverage, playing not to get beat across face, because that's where the bigger plays happen in football. So those are the 3 different variations of cover 1. The next coverage that we have is cover 2. There's 5 defenders playing zone underneath, 2 defenders playing deep halves. Those are the safeties. The middle linebacker in this has a unique way that he plays his coverage. He typically opens up his hips to the strong passing strength here, whether it's the 3 receiver side or where he has a vertical release by the tight end, and he's going to be a in-between of a deep player and an underneath player. This opens up a lot of voids for right underneath over the ball, which is where teams often check down to running backs in cover 2. You'll see this a lot in 2 minutes. The whole basis of this defense is to not let teams exploit easy space in the passing game. A lot of times you will see teams check to run plays on 1st and 2nd down if they see cover 2 present pre-snap, and it is very much a deterrent for trying to pass the ball downfield. Sometimes you have to, and that's just the way it goes, but cover 2 is one of the basic coverages in the NFL, and yeah, that's pretty much why it's played. Cover 3 is also one of the coverages that a lot of teams use in the NFL, but the key point with this one is that every team plays it differently. You see these curl flat players in the purple. Some teams teach them to straight bust the flat. Some teams teach these guys to match vertical releases. It just depends. And sometimes you'll even have cover 3 where that curl flat is just a flat defender and the hooks play the seams. You never know what it's going to look like until you dive into film of the team that you're playing, because again, every team plays it differently. The big thing that beats these coverages are stressing the seams vertically and also stressing the flats right now. You'll see curl flat combination run versus this. You'll see trips verticals run on this, and a lot of times teams with really good tight ends will run a tight end post and try to stress the opposite side hook defender to the flat to get him to false step. There's a few different ways to attack this, but basically this is a run stopping defense that tries to be sound enough in the pass game, but if you know how to exploit it and you can get the ball out on time, you can be really successful against it. Cover 4 is one of the less used coverages, but it's in everybody's playbook, and this is basically an adjustment to try to have the best of both worlds, but in my opinion it leaves you a little bit unsound. It's a great way to disguise coverages, but basically the theory is that these cover 4 safeties, both left and right safety here, they have a run responsibility first before the pass responsibility. They have run gaps they have to come down and fit, and a lot of times teams will try to exploit this with play action, with deep posts over the top of them, and even just straight up drop back, because teams will have a tight end, 2 tight ends like they have here, that will run a drag and a basic, and basically these safeties are responsible for anything vertical at them up to 10 to 12 yards, and they have to attach to it, and if not, then you're going to be able to milk this across the middle of the field the entire game. So that puts a lot of stress on these corners to both play out routes, which they don't have much help on, and post, which they don't have great leverage on. If you see teams getting into quarters, they're trying to stop the run, they're trying to be able to disguise coverage between cover 2 and cover 4, and they're hoping that you're not throwing posts over the top or trying to stress them deep, because it is really ending up like an off man coverage for these corners if you get something to occupy the safeties. So that's what cover 4 is all for, and I would say most teams do this out of a odd front. A lot of times these curl flat players will be down lineman to one side, like a kind of stressed linebacker, one that likes to rush the edge but also can play coverage. This is a really heavy defense used, more of the 3-4 schemes. Now we're getting into cover 6. Cover 6 is a mixture of cover 4 and cover 2. A lot of times teams will denote cover 6 as the strong side or the passing strength side being the cover 2 side and the back side being cover 4. There's a lot of different ways to attack this, but basically if you draw a line down the middle of the field, it essentially plays 50-50 on each side. Both benefits of cover 2 and cover 4 play into this, as well as the weaknesses. A lot of times you will see teams try to attach the cover 2 safety to a vertical stem route that hooks up maybe 15 yards or so and sneak a post from the middle player across the field over the top to attack his zone that should be the deep half. There's a lot of different ways to attack this, but there's also a lot of ways to get caught trying to do too much, because they can stop the run. They have a safety that's going to come down and play. They have a flat defender that can play tall sweeps. I would say the best teams that attack this have a really good run game with a deep shot off of it that they can just line up and play smash mouth football and take advantage of you when you start creeping up. So cover 6 has its benefits. I think it's harder to beat teams that are playing cover 6 the closer you get to the red zone, but in the open field, there's a lot of space to exploit. Now let's get into the blitzes that come from all these coverages. Every coverage that I talked about has a variant that has a blitzer with it. So there's cover 2B, where there's one less underneath defender and there's a 5th rusher. Some of these have overload blitzes where there's 6 or even 7 rushers. And that's when you start getting into the protection game and needing to know who is blocking who, what side is the offensive line sliding to, and which has the man side of the blocking scheme and which has the zone off side of the scheme. With that, the biggest one is cover 0. That's kind of your all-out blitz where there's 5 defenders playing man and they're going to try to bring one more player than you can block. The best way to beat this is to run outbreakers, and the other way that you can beat this is to slide the line in a full slide one way or the other, whether it's right or left, and even keep a tight end and a running back in, and knowing that with your quarterback you're going to have to slightly drift to the side that the line is sliding to, because there's going to be a really short edge on the backside. As we get into this, they're going to have us do slants here, and one of the things that I would like to do is I would rather slide the line left here, but they're not going to let me do that. They just want us to complete a ball here. So they also like screens versus cover 0, which I don't like screens to the running back versus 0. I like them more to receivers, where there's a bunch of defenders that are pinning their ears back trying to get to the quarterback and you're throwing away from where they're coming from. But let's see what Madden wants us to do with this. Can work, but I promise you it doesn't typically work like that in real life. Not for running back screens versus 0. Verticals against cover 0. So what I would expect to happen here is I would want to slide the line right or left, which they won't let me do. I'd probably slide the line left here, keep the running back into block, maybe bring Evan Ingram in here to block, and expect that Christian Kirk is going to break on a post on this seam with his read. We'll see what happens though. Yeah, he does. So now in real life, expect that to happen, but you're going to have more protection help. Madden's answer right now is to not have better protection, but in the NFL, protection is always first. And as soon as you know it's 0, you're going to do things with the offensive line and the running back and even the tight end that will help your case.